Robert Stark here. This is the Joint Resolution Committee. I am Joint Committee Chairman. I'm Robert Stark with Jason Wright and Marcus Ruiz Evans as a moderator. It's 6 p.m. sharp on June 29th, 2021. And the resolutions for different various independence movements, that was a great success, and those are now up on YouTube. And the other thing we were working on is that civil liberties resolution. Uh, Marcus, do you want to, or Jason, do you want to comment on how the resolutions for the independence movements went?
Yeah, sure. I think that we formulated a great little template to go by to help streamline everything. And I think it did exactly that. It helped us streamline, and we basically busted through several of them in like a matter of weeks, when before it had taken us a month or two just to get one. So I see this as definite success.
And yeah, I see. So Scotland, I think we did. That was a while back, but the ones recently, just to clarify, were Catalonia, Texas, Cape Party, and Artsakh. Those four were the recent ones from the resolutions we worked upon, and the template, which was a success as well.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just showing everybody that these are all done.
It had taken us a couple of months to get the Scotland one together and then out. And in less than that time, we've got like 3 or 4 of them totally nailed out, posted up, whole 9 yards.
It is a lot faster. Yeah, the Artsakh one took a while, and there's 2 Artsakh ones and 2 Scotland ones.
Is there a way that you can, Marcus, you can post them, tweet them out on the main Yes California Twitter profile?
Yeah, I'll work on that this week. So this is showing we've been working on these speeches. We just saw a little bit. All those are up, and you can see them here. I'm sorry, I don't have a mouse. I'm doing this manually. Okay, so you can see them here: Catalonia, Texas, Cape Party, Scotland, Artsakh, and yeah, that's it. Catalonia, Texas, Cape Party, Scotland, Artsakh. These are the ones that we have so far. And we already have a model, which we've been covering over the last couple weeks. And we've been, really, Jason and Robert have been making these speeches. And I don't know who started this. I think it was Robert, but it doesn't, it really a forward vision of let's have solidarity speeches from this independence organization to all of the other ones. And it was not my idea. I believe, Robert, you had been you were at least a heavily push for this. And Jason's also been doing a lot of extensive outreach, especially Scotland and Artsakh. Robert Stark brought in the Cape Party. Texas, we've always had. Catalonia is kind of everybody's, but I think people have been making really good outreach to there. So that is 5. And we have 5 done, 3 following the model. The others didn't. And we have an approved model for the other independence movements. And let me see if I can find a list of those other movements that the this group said that it wanted to make important videos for. Sorry, my words are not coming to me today.
Personally, I mean, I know most indigenous nations are not really like actively pursuing self-determination, independence
The only one
movements per se.
I think the only one I can think of is Lakota that had a serious independence movement. I don't think any of the other ones did.
Well, independence movement or not, I think it's rather appropriate that we like maybe do at least a statement of solidarity or something. That hey, we understand that the federal government of the United States of America tramples all over the rights of people that they deem as not worthy of those rights. And we understand that many, many generations of oppression can lead to things such as, losing touch with one's own culture, losing track of one's own history. Right? I mean, this rings true for indigenous nations. This also rings true for California, right? California history taught as the United States of America fought a war against Mexico and won California out of it, even though the United States did not fight a war against Mexico. California fought a war against Mexico and won its own independence out of it. And then the United States of America came along to be the bully and annexed and started committing atrocious acts of genocide against the Californios, more than half of whom were indigenous folk. So, I think it's pertinent. I think it's appropriate. And if you guys would support it, I think that we should probably do something along those lines.
So for specific tribes, like say like the Chumash, or just in general.
We could do it just in general because let's face it, anyone who wasn't white, and there were some white folk who were just very tan, or, they had like, Southern European ancestry, and so they didn't look so white. So back in the day in the United States of America, if you weren't white, then you didn't get rights. No one cared. No one cared that you didn't get rights. You were lucky if you didn't get killed. So really, I think if we do, we could probably just do it as all-encompassing, because every single indigenous nation, every single indigenous person in North America suffered greatly at the hands of the United States.
There are at least two indigenous nations that have sort of said that they act independently and are large enough to be a full-fledged nation. That's the Lakota and the Navajo.
One thing about a lot of these reservations, they overlap multiple states, so would that complicate things? So like Navajo Nation, I think it overlaps Arizona and New Mexico. I'm not sure if it overlaps Utah and Colorado as well, like the Four Corners region, but would that be kind of illegal, legally complicating things, as we've kind of just which was an issue like with Greater Idaho?
I personally don't think it matters so much, and here's why. The Navajo Long Walk. The Navajo were brought from what was actually their land where they had actually been for God knows how long, and they were forcibly removed from there. And now what we think of today as the, Arizona, New Mexico, Navajo area, that, I mean, sure, it might be their area that was assigned to them now, but that's because it had like bubonic plague. It's out in the middle of one of the hottest parts of North America. Literally, nobody wants to be there. Literally. So, I mean, really, I don't think it matters so much because that whole area isn't even theirs anyway. Their area is actually a much more prime area that they were forcibly removed from, and it was a war crime, act of genocide, call it what you will, but like, when you start with a really large group of people all at gunpoint and you march them through the harshest conditions possible, and the group that's alive enough to make it to the destination is like 1/10 or less of what you had started out with. Well, I don't think it really takes a professor of mathematics to put the 2 and 2 together on that one. That was an atrocity. And it was also that the United States government could take control of all of the resources that they wanted that was on Navajo land. And then the Sioux, I believe, what is it that Mount Rushmore was carved into? Is it the Blue Mountains? Or the Black Mountains?
I think Black Mountain.
Yeah, something like that. That was their sacred burial ground. That was like super duper sacred to the people there. So much so that they wouldn't really even go up on the hill unless it was for a ceremony, for a specific thing. And like originally, the deal that they made with the United States government was that if you guys in this whole area that we deem as sacred, then we don't mind you coming over, trading. We can be friends. Just don't go and deeply, egregiously offend us. And of course, in true United States fashion, they had to pretty much immediately go and put all those people at gunpoint and say, there's gold and gemstones and all sorts of stuff up there that we want. And you're not white, so we're not affording you the same rights that we afford to ourselves. So, see my gun, you can leave now or be shot. That's America. So really, we could cover it all with one really well done, and I don't think it would be short, and I don't think it could be really a templated one. I think it should get a lot of thought and effort. Maybe not so much time because we want it out in a timely manner, but lots of thought, lots of effort, lots of, get it done enthusiasm in there so it doesn't take too much time. And we could craft a speech that, one, tells indigenous folk around the world that, hey, we really do care, and we really don't like all of these sort of atrocities and would never perpetrate such things if we were the ones in power. It also says, hey, U.S. government, you've been bad. And not only that, but you still have yet to make up for your crimes. Crimes against humanity, no less. Like, some serious stuff.
Yeah, I would say draft it. Start a draft. That always starts the creation process. And let's see.
And what's your vote on that, Robert?
Yeah, I support that. If you want to go ahead and just start drafting a resolution.
Okay. Yeah. It'll probably take a little bit. I mean, all the way through Sunday, I am pretty busy. But here and there, I'll get little chances to put a little bit more into it here and there. But then I think next week, I'm definitely going to put this as my main workload so that next Tuesday, hopefully, we might be able to come in and discuss some of the fine point stuff. Maybe I know sometimes I dig a little too deep when I'm making my dig. So if I run it by you guys and it seems like I'm being too harsh on Uncle Sam, you can feel free to let me know.
All right. Yeah.
Or in the inverse, if I'm not being harsh enough on Uncle Sam, for any of our Indigenous brothers and sisters, please feel free to let me know, and I will go harder.
That's why I say let's start with the draft and see where it goes. I know we got a few minutes left, like 13 before Robert has to go. I would like to ask the committee heads, Robert and Jason, there's a list at your screen. Puerto Rico, New Caledonia, Greenland, Alaska, English Cameroon, Hong Kong, Papua New Guinea, Flanders, maybe, Tigray, Lakota, Navajo. These are all known independence movements that, except for Flanders, we're pretty sure are peaceful.
Yeah, we should. I support writing. Should we just go ahead and write up stuff, or to discuss which of those we want to support? Or should we just go ahead and support all of them, or is it up for a discussion?
It's up to you guys. I mean, each one of these is peaceful, to my knowledge.
Yeah, with the question mark, is my impression is Flanders is 100%. They're 100% peaceful. The only issue is that they're more ideologically right wing. So my stance is that I support resolution for all of them, but it's worth discussing. But my stance is that I would support all of them.
What do you mean Flanders is right wing? If I may ask you, sir.
They have a more ideological right wing background.
I mean, are they saying they want to become independent because they don't like brown people hanging out, or is it like more like traditional Republican type thing? Because this is a good point. I would not have supported Brexit. Now, initially I did, but after Brexit passed, and they go, yeah, it passed because they had all these commercials saying, oh my God, immigrants and Muslims. Well, no, I don't want to support that. Was it peaceful and legal? Yes. Was it? I feel like if we supported Brexit, we were kind of saying, hey.
So yeah, it would be similar. It would be similar. I guess they're kind of similar to Brexit.
It's the committee, Jason. How do you feel about that? I just think it's problematic for us to say we love diversity, and maybe these other.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna get to right there. Is look at Catalonia, right? Catalonia is fairly progressive when it comes to the rest of Spain. Catalonia is still further right than most of California. But we support Catalonia. We support their right to self-determination. And and that's ultimately what it comes down to, is the right to self-determination. And there are groups that are covered, certain groupings of people that are covered by the Articles of Self-Determination, and ones that are not. Ones that are, we definitely should be at least supportive of their right to pursue self-determination unimpeded or unimpinged, right? Because we are one of them. If we don't support the right to self-determination, then we definitely have no place touting our right to self-determination. See? So, ultimately, any sort of, political leaning, I mean, if they're fascists or like literally like Nazis, they're like, I'm not one of those crazies that thinks Hitler's still alive, hidden in a bunker somewhere, but I do believe that we could reenact all of his policies and make this world Hitler's envisioned, grand whatever thing, the grand pile of horse droppings. If they are like that, then we definitely would want to be very careful about saying anything. The most we should say for something like that would be we support the right to self-determination, right? What we don't want to say is how chummy we are, how much we love them, what we have in common, because then we look like Nazis.
And we can use the same. I think the template is fine for that. So, like with Texas,
if they're an extremist type,
let me hear Robert.
Okay, sorry.
Let's hear Robert out real quick.
Yeah, so going back to the template, like some of them we emphasize commonality, and then with Texas we did talk about like the differences because they're in the United States. So with foreign movements, with the template, like how should we emphasize whether there's commonality or just the principle of self-determination? Because there could be an ideological difference, but you could still support them just based on that principle.
Well, I believe that, if they're not extremists, right, it's just they've got their views, and their views are different from California views because they're not California. We could point that, hey, we support you. We've got some things in common. And, hey, we support you even though we have some differences.
Yeah, because California
differences don't hinder our ability to recognize that all self-determination causes need to be supportive of one another for their own sake as much as others. And that all of us really could work together and be productive together even while recognizing our differences, right? And make it our differences make us stronger if we let them, kind of a speech.
Yeah, and there are like core principles of like human rights you can talk about, like freedom from oppression, that are universal. But then when we talk about California values, there are certain things that are universal, that are universal rights, and you don't want to support something that violates that. But then there is room for disagreement, and if they don't support California values, that I don't think they necessarily have to. I think each nation has their own history, culture, and political outlook, and that's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with all that. I just, with Texas, yeah, they have different values than this, and Catalonia.
Also, because it's in with I think the distinction that I brought up is like Texas. That's in the United States. Like I think there is a different framework for writing these resolutions. We're talking about a foreign country because they're not sharing the same political system, and because the issue of Texas is like there's an issue where Texas feels that California values are being imposed upon them. And there was that when Trump or Republicans were president, the same issue. California felt that red states were imposing their values upon California, but that's going to be less of an issue if we're talking about a foreign country.
Yeah. I agree. My only thinking is this. I don't want to be seen as, yes, California supporting that being hostile to immigration and wanting to kick out ethnic groups is a cool way to back your movement. Texas, for all of their anti-Californianess, hasn't really framed their love of independence around they want to kick out immigrants. I don't think they love immigrants like us. I think they're a lot more racist, but or tolerant of it, but it's not framed around that. Brexit was framed around that. And what I'm getting from you, Robert, is that Flanders is framing that, whereas all of these other independent.
Yeah, that is true that's probably true with Flanders, similar to Brexit.
I'd like to avoid that, or I'd like to propose that we avoid that. You can have totally different politics than us, like Jason is saying, but if your motivation is those brown-skinned immigrants, yeah. And really, we're only missing Flanders. There's 10 more places to go. Like, that knocks one off the list.
Well, yeah, and if I may cut in real quick, I think that if Flanders' movement is for self-determination, yet it's based in a racist or very dark kind of a place.
Because part of it is that the country Belgium is that it was sort of carved up after the end of the Napoleonic Wars, but there was no. I think it was like the British primarily played a role in carving it up, but it was carved up as a buffer against France because of Napoleon, but there was no respect for the people living there.
Well, and so what I'm trying to get at is if Flanders is seeking self-determination, but it's based on something kind of what we might consider icky or evil, right? Something bad. Then the most we should say is that we support everyone's right to self-determination. And definitely just leave it at that, if we do cover it at all. Now, I think blatantly choosing not to cover it while choosing to cover other ones does kind of say the same message as, not agreeing with their right to self-determination, which would then undercut our own message about our own right to self-determination. So I do think, we should look into it. I don't think we need to do that one next. We could definitely put that in the look into it deeply pile. And maybe, if I might suggest, Puerto Rico, Alaska, Hong Kong, or Tigray. If we could do any of those as the next one, well, I'll be working on, the Indigenous Nations outreach speech.
Robert, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, the ones listed, we can go over them, and then if they're in a question mark, we can revisit them in the future.
You cool with these being the next three?
And I'm sure there's probably more. But I think those three can be the priority.
We'll get them all. I'm just saying, is the group okay with we take Jason's suggestion to say next is these three? We'll work on knocking these out, and then we'll go back to the list.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Jason, is that okay for the committee to make that a priority for the future?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, then these are the ones we're looking at. We will take a deep, long think about Flanders. Excellent point about the right of self-determination. These will be the next three. We will follow the model already done, and we'll get a bunch of them done. Robert, I want to respect your time. It is 6:30. If you'd like to stay longer, totally love it, but I want to respect your wishes, and thank you for being so willing to modify your schedule.
Okay, bye.
Okay.
Stay safe, Robert.
Bye. Take care.
Jason, let me in the broadcast, and then can I call you in a few minutes?
Yeah, totally.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll call you in a few minutes.
Just
Is
let
there
me do
anything
the
you want
outro.
to say? Yeah, and I just want to get on the road in a few minutes. Is there anything that we need to say at this meeting to get it out, recorded? Like, yes, we brought it up. Or is there issues we need to cover, or at least to mention them?
There is a very, very huge domestic to the United States. However, for California as a nation or as an independent entity, anything in the United States is not domestic for us, but foreign. So this domestically foreign, foreignly domestic issue, Joe Biden just used executive power to bomb Syria, militant in Syria. So the United States, the leader of the United States, used his supreme command authority to bomb troops from another country, in another country.
Yeah.
Nancy
Without consent of
Pelosi,
Congress.
yes, without consent of Congress. However, here's the kicker. He got the world's worst Californian to agree, Nancy Pelosi. She who does not even live here yet somehow still keeps getting elected as our representative. And I know people who don't live in California who are much more in touch with California and California way of thinking and being, California values, than Speaker of the House Pelosi is. So she signed off on it as the third highest. Yes, everyone, if you're listening in, first highest authority, President of the United States. Second highest authority, Vice President of the United States. And the third highest is the Speaker of the House of Representatives, who is Nancy Pelosi. So she agreed that this was an act of self-defense for the United States, which means that it does not need an act of Congress at that point.
Not true. She's wrong. I'm not. Your story's correct.
Well, yeah, I mean, I know it's obviously not self-defense, right? Like someone has to break into your home for you to be able to shoot them in self-defense, right? If these people are over in their own home and you come into their home and blow them to smithereens, you don't get to claim self-defense.
Yeah. Okay.
But there's the world's worst Californian justifying it for him as such. So
yeah, and
it's a huge issue. It's been going on for a while. When Biden was vice president under Obama, they were doing some of this. Then Trump kind of ramped it up a little bit. And because it was Trump, everyone totally was willing to call it out for what it was. War crime. And then now that Biden's the president, well, it's just self-defense. But literally, when Trump had American bombs dropped on Syria, it was a totally different story.
Yeah.
I don't like Trump, not one bit. But I gotta point out that, just as we can't say we support some people's right to self-determination, but not others, right? We have to be 100% fair, unbiased, neutral, right? And that means calling it as it is, not mincing words, not beating around the bush. It is literally the same thing and being called not a big deal just because of who's in office, just because of the color of the party that's in office, rather. It's not so much Joe Biden himself. It's more the fact that he's part of the Democrats.
Yep. Okay. We'll end it there. Would you like to do the outro?
Yes. So, everyone, thank you for joining us. We apologize that we have to keep it a little bit more brief this week, but next week, if you tune back in, should be all sorts of juicy stuff to go over. This has been the Joint Issues Committee, or also known as the Resolutions Committee, for the Cal Exit Congress. I have been one of your co-hosts, along with Robert Stark, who is not currently here now. I am Jason Wright, and together with host and moderator Marcus Ruiz Evans, also the president of Yes California, I am going to call this meeting on June the 29th of 2021 adjourned.
All right.